right, so today we're going to tackle something pretty big.
Yeah.
We're diving into the Silmarillion.
All right.
I know. Tolkien.
You're buckle.
It's Tolkien before the Hobbits.
Right.
Before the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the prequel to end all prequels.
Yeah.
So it's like if you think about the Lord of the Rings, you've got that whole story.
Yeah.
But this is like diving into the Old Testament.
The deep lore.
Of Middle-earth.
Yeah.
So have you ever...
this is the stuff that makes...
Read the Silmarillion.
The Lord of the Rings makes sense.
Okay, cool.
You know what I mean?
So what is it about? Like, how would you even describe this thing?
So the Silmarillion is not like a regular novel.
Okay.
It's not like a straight-up story.
Yeah.
It's more like a collection of myths and legends.
Okay.
All about the first age of Middle-earth.
Okay.
So it's like Tolkien sat down and wrote the history book.
Wow.
For his entire world.
So, okay. So if the Lord of the Rings is about Sauron, this is about, like, his mentor, Melkor.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So Melkor is kind of like the OG evil.
Okay.
The first Dark Lord.
Gotcha.
And the Silmarillion tells the story of his rise and fall.
Okay, so this is going way back.
Way back.
To, like, the very beginning.
It starts with the creation of the world itself.
Okay.
But Tolkien puts a very unique spin on it.
Right.
It's not your typical let there be light kind of thing.
Yeah.
Instead, he introduces these powerful beings called the Ainur.
Okay.
They're kind of like angel-like figures.
I'm with you, yeah.
And they literally sing the world into existence.
Wow.
Their music, guided by Eru Ilúvatar, who's basically Tolkien's god,
okay,
shapes the very fabric of reality.
So instead of like a big bang, there's like this big song.
That's it.
That's pretty cool.
It's a symphony of creation.
So all these Ainur are cool with just singing along? Like in perfect harmony. Doesn't someone want to like take a solo?
Yeah.
You know, be a little extra?
Yeah, you're picking up on something that's very important here.
All right.
Because you're right.
Okay.
Not all the Ainur are down with just harmonizing.
Okay.
There's this one dude, Melkor, and he's going to be a problem who tries to, like, throw in his own chaotic riffs.
Yeah.
He wants to do his own thing.
So he's like the guy.
And it's this discord, this disruption of the music
Yeah.
that brings evil and suffering into the world.
Who like shows up at the Mozart concert and insists on playing death metal?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm with you.
You got it.
I see where this is going.
Melkor's like that guy.
So he's like messing up the whole vibe.
Ruining the symphony.
Yeah.
And just like how death metal at a Mozart concert would like totally kill the mood.
Yeah.
Melkor's little improvisation messes things up big time.
That's a bad note.
And this act of defiance sets the stage for all the epic conflicts and all the tragedies that unfold in the first age.
Okay. So from these Ainur, these musical beings,
Yes.
you get to the Valar, right?
Yes.
And they're the ones who actually get to like shape the world, right? Like the mountains, the oceans, the whole deal.
That's right. They're like the architects of Middle-earth.
Okay.
Chosen by Eru, that god figure, to govern and guide the world.
Okay, so it's like Tolkien created this whole pantheon of gods, but they each have their own, like, specialty.
Right, exactly. And their own personality.
God, yeah.
Like, you've got Manwë, who's the king of the Valar.
King of the Valar, so he's like the top dog.
He is, and he embodies air and ones.
Okay.
And then you've got Ulmo, the Lord of Waters.
Okay.
And Ollie the Smith, who actually creates the dwarves.
Wow, it's like a whole team of specialists.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
Each with their own domain and expertise.
So even with these like super powerful beings in charge, there's still that tension between order and freedom, right?
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Because if they're so powerful, why don't they just like step in and stop Melkor from doing his evil thing?
That is such a good question.
Like if your kid's about to, you know.
It's a really profound question, actually, because it gets to the heart of one of Tolkien's big themes.
Okay.
And that's free will.
Free will, okay.
Even though the Valar have immense power, they don't want to completely control everyone's actions.
They want to give him a chance.
Exactly.
Okay.
They value freedom of choice.
Even though they know, like, things could go wrong.
And they do, yeah.
Yeah.
And they know that it often leads to
bad decisions.
bad decisions.
Okay, so, I mean, that kind of makes you think, right? Like, how much control do we really have over our own lives?
Exactly.
And, like, how do our choices, even the small ones, affect everything else? It's like that butterfly effect thing.
The ripple effect, it's all interconnected.
So it's like cosmic parenting, but
a great analogy.
with a lot more at stake.
Yeah, the stakes are a little higher. And There's a great example of this with Olmo,
Olmo, Lord of Waters?
Lord of Waters, that's right.
Yeah.
He often works in secret to help those who oppose Melkor.
Okay.
Even though Melkor is this powerful being
Yeah.
causing all this chaos,
So he's like an undercover agent.
he's working behind the scenes.
For good.
Yeah, kind of like a secret rebel,
Okay.
fighting against this overwhelming force of evil.
That's pretty inspiring.
It is.
Like, it shows that even when things seem really bad,
Yeah,
individual choices still matter.
absolutely.
Okay. But we can't talk Silmarillion without talking about
We can't, can we?
the Silmarils.
The Silmarils themselves.
They're in the title.
They are front and center.
These are these jewels, right?
There are these 3 incredibly beautiful
Yeah.
and powerful jewels
Okay.
created by this elf, Fëanor.
Fëanor.
He's like this ridiculously skilled elf,
Right.
a craftsman beyond compare.
And everyone wants them, right? Like, even Melkor is after these things.
Everyone wants them, yeah. Because the Silmarils represent
Okay.
like the pinnacle of beauty and light in Tolkien's world.
Okay, so they're not just like shiny trinkets.
No, they're not just bling. They're like the ultimate symbol of
Yeah.
everything good and pure in creation.
All right, so they're very important.
Very, very important.
And that's what makes it so bad when Melkor steals them.
Yeah, that's where the real trouble starts.
Okay.
Because Melkor, driven by greed and envy,
Yeah.
he steals them.
I see where this is going.
It's not just a theft.
Yeah.
It's like a symbolic act of defiance.
Like a big screw you to creation.
Exactly.
Okay, and so this is where things really get going.
Yeah, this is a catalyst.
Because Fëanor's not just going to let that slide.
He is not having it.
Right. He's like, nope, we're going after this guy.
Yeah, he's furious.
And he leads a whole bunch of elves
Whole bunch of elves.
out of Valinor,
Out of Valinor.
which is like paradise, right?
It's the blessed realm.
To go after Melkor in Middle-earth.
To pursue him to the ends of the earth.
So it's like the ultimate bad breakup,
Yeah, you could say that.
but also it's like, is vengeance ever worth it?
That's the question
Right.
that Tolkien is really exploring here.
Okay.
The consequences of actions
Yeah.
driven by passion.
Even if it seems justified.
Even if it seems justified.
Okay, I'm hooked.
It's good.
So we've got this cosmic battle of good versus evil.
We do.
We've got these powerful beings shaping the world.
Shaping the world.
And now we've got these elves on a quest to get their jewels back.
On a quest for vengeance.
So where do we go from here?
Well, things are about to get really epic.
Okay.
Because the First Age is marked by these incredible battles,
Right.
tragic love stories,
Oh.
and heroes facing impossible odds.
Like Game of Thrones, but with elves and dragons.
I've got it.
All right, let's do it. I'm ready for the next part.
Okay, let's dive in. You know what's crazy about this whole thing with these elves leaving paradise?
What's that?
I mean, think about it. They're giving up everything
Yeah.
to chase this guy down
Yeah.
and get their jewels back.
It's a big deal to them.
It is.
Yeah.
It really speaks to something very human.
What do you mean?
I mean, think about it.
Okay.
This deep primal need we all have
Yeah.
to fight for what we believe in,
Yeah.
even if it means risking everything.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like, haven't we seen this throughout history?
Oh,
People
no.
making these huge decisions
Yeah.
based on their beliefs.
To right or wrong or
Yeah.
something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those decisions,
Yeah.
they shape history.
Yeah. It's powerful.
It is.
But it's also kind of scary.
It is scary because you think,
Like, what would I do
yeah,
if I were in that situation?
exactly. Would you make that same choice?
Yeah. Would I make that same choice?
That's a question that Tolkien really explores
Yeah.
in the Silmarillion.
Okay.
He's always looking at the consequences.
Of our choices.
Yeah. Even if you start with good intentions,
Yeah.
things can go wrong.
Things can go really wrong.
They can go really wrong.
Yeah.
And so the first stage,
Yeah.
it's not just these epic battles.
Okay.
It's about exile,
Yeah.
loss, and like the weight of promises made.
In the heat of the moment.
Yeah, when you're not really thinking straight.
Yeah, when you're emotional.
Exactly.
Okay. And speaking of like keeping track of everybody,
Right.
hasn't Tolkien like created these crazy family trees?
He loves his family trees.
Because let's be real,
Yeah.
even for Tolkien fans,
It's hard to keep track.
keeping all those elves straight,
It is.
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
So what's the deal with those?
So the family trees,
Yeah.
they're actually super helpful.
Okay.
They map out all the lineages,
Okay.
the elves and men,
Right.
and they highlight the key players
Okay.
and how they're all connected.
So it's like, if you're reading this thing,
It's a cheat sheet. It's like who's who in Middle-earth you
Yeah.
can keep track of.
With all the drama,
The relationships.
the family drama.
Yeah. Oh.
It's like the ultimate family drama.
It is.
And
And they really show how Tolkien was obsessed with history and lineage.
Yeah, he loved that stuff.
He loved it.
And he was like, choices matter.
Choices matter. What happened in the past
Gives you
affects the present.
Oh, I like that.
And the family trees show that.
Okay, so these family trees,
Yeah.
they're pretty intense.
They can be pretty intense, especially
Yeah.
when you compare them to like Game of Thrones.
They make Game of Thrones look simple.
Game of Thrones is child's play compared to the Silmarillion.
Okay. So for someone who's maybe, new to the Silmarillion,
Yeah.
and they're looking at these family trees and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this.
Take a deep breath.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to memorize everything.
Do you know how to get it all right away?
Right. Just focus on the characters who grab your attention.
Okay.
The stories that you really connect with.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And if you need to
Yeah.
flip back to the family tree.
Refer back to the chart.
Refer back to the chart.
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
We've all been there.
We all do it.
Okay.
Don't worry. It's
Yeah.
all about the experience.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we've talked about these
Yeah.
big themes.
The grand themes.
Right. The Valar.
The powerful Valar.
These elves.
The vengeful elves.
But what about the everyday people?
Right. The people caught in the middle.
Yeah,
The
sure.
little guys.
Yeah. What happens to them?
Well, that's where the Silmarillion gets
Yeah.
really interesting
Okay.
because we see the impact
Yeah.
of these larger-than-life events
Okay.
on everyday folks.
Okay.
It's not just about gods and elves fighting.
Right.
It's about the people,
Okay.
the families,
Yeah.
the cultures.
Okay. So paint us a picture.
Yeah.
Like, who are some of the people
Okay, so
that we meet in this story?
we meet Beren and Luthien.
Beren and Luthien.
They're these star-crossed lovers
Okay.
in their love story.
Yeah.
It's legendary.
Oh,
It
okay.
echoes through the ages of Middle-earth.
Oh, wow.
But it's not all,
Sunshine and Roses?
sunshine and roses.
Yeah.
It's a tale of sacrifice,
Okay.
courage,
Hmm.
and defying fate.
You're like Romeo and Juliet,
It's Tolkien's Romeo and Juliet
but with orcs.
with orcs and werewolves and all sorts of creatures.
Okay, that's cool.
And then you have Turambar.
Turin to Ram.
He's this tragic hero
All right.
plagued by misfortune.
All right.
And then there's Hurin,
Turin.
whose family is just completely destroyed
Oh,
by
no.
Melkor's cruelty.
Wow. So it's like,
These are heartbreaking stories,
Yeah.
but they're so powerful because
Yeah.
they show how even in the darkest times,
yeah.
there can be hope and resilience. So even with all this epic stuff happening,
Yeah.
Tolkien doesn't shy away
Right.
from the real human cost,
The cost of war.
the cost of war and conflict.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so compelling.
Okay.
It's not just good versus evil.
Right.
It's about the human experience.
It's about us.
Yeah. Okay.
What it means to be human.
So we've got this huge scope,
Mm-hmm.
these crazy stories.
Heart-wrenching stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what about Tolkien himself?
Right.
I mean, we know he was this devout Catholic.
He was a scholar of language, mythology,
Yeah.
history.
So how did all that affect
Oh, it's all woven in?
the Silmarillion?
You can see his faith
Okay.
in the themes of creation,
Yeah.
fall redemption, and
Right.
the scholarship.
Yeah.
It's in the languages,
The languages.
the genealogies,
Okay.
the depth of the world he creates.
So it's like he wasn't just writing a book.
No,
He was building a whole world.
he was creating a world
Right. From the ground up.
with its own history.
Its own history,
Language.
its own languages,
And
its own mythology.
Okay, it's a whole lot.
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But that's what's so captivating.
But that's not just like surface level.
No, it's deep.
Okay,
He put a lot of thought into this.
you can tell.
You can definitely tell
Yeah.
that this was a passion project.
It was a labor of love.
It was a labor of love.
So even though he was like really religious,
Mm-hmm.
do you think there's something in the Silmarillion
Oh, absolutely.
that kind of goes beyond that?
Yeah.
Like, do you think there's a universal message in there?
I think the themes
Okay.
of good versus evil,
Yeah.
the consequences of choices, the
Mhm.
power of love and hope,
Okay.
these are things that resonate with everyone,
That's true.
regardless of their beliefs.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's about what it means to be human.
Yeah, we've all experienced those things.
Exactly.
Okay.
We've all felt those emotions.
So no matter who you are,
Doesn't matter where you come from.
you can connect with this book.
You can find something in this book
That's cool.
that speaks to you.
Yeah, and that's why it's so popular.
That's one of the reasons why it's endured.
It's not just about escaping.
No.
It makes you think.
It makes you think.
Okay, we've talked a lot about
We have
all this stuff.
a lot of ground.
But I keep thinking,
Yeah.
what makes this book so unique?
Right. There are a lot of fantasy books out there.
Yeah.
But this
This one's special.
one's different.
So what is it?
I think it's the way Tolkien blends everything together.
Okay.
Myth, history,
Okay.
his own beliefs.
Right.
And he creates this world that feels both familiar
Yeah.
and totally fantastical.
Yeah. It's like he's uncovering some...
Ancient truth.
Yeah.
Like he's tapping into something
Like something we've always known.
primal,
Yeah.
deep down inside.
And there's something about the stories.
Yeah.
The themes.
They're timeless.
Yeah, they're timeless.
It's not tied to any specific time
It's not like a fad.
or culture.
Yeah.
It's something deeper.
It makes you think about...
The big questions.
Yes.
Life,
Yeah.
death,
Yeah.
good, evil. It's
Yeah.
all there.
And you know what else I like about it?
What's that?
The language.
Oh,
I thought-
the language.
Yeah.
It's not your typical fantasy.
It's not like swords and sorcery.
No.
Yeah.
It's elevated.
almost poetic.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's like reading an epic poem.
Yeah,
It takes some getting used to.
it does.
Yeah.
But once you get it,
Oh, it's breathtaking.
it's amazing.
It just sweeps you away.
Yeah, it pulls you out of your world
It transports you.
and it drops you right into Middle Earth.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a different experience.
It is.
But it's worth it.
It's so worth it.
So it's not like
Yeah.
books just giving you the story.
No, you have to work for it.
You have to work for it.
Little
Yeah.
bit. Okay. Yeah.
You have to engage with the language.
Right.
You have to put the pieces together.
So it's like a puzzle.
It's like a puzzle.
And that makes it more rewarding.
It does.
Yeah.
Because you're discovering
You're uncovering.
the world
Yeah.
layer by layer.
Okay, I like that.
So for someone who's
Mhm.
on the fence
On the fence.
about reading the Silmarillion,
Yeah.
what would you say to them?
Like, what would make it worth it?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think for me,
Yeah.
it's the scope
Okay.
of Tolkien's imagination.
Okay.
You're transported to this vast,
Yeah.
meticulously detailed world.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's huge where
Yeah.
everything has a story.
Yeah.
And that experience,
It stays with you.
it stays with you
Yeah.
long after you've finished reading.
It's a world you can get lost in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
It's an invitation.
It's an invitation.
to
to
discover.
let your imagination
Yeah.
run wild. Yeah, it really is more than a book.
It's an experience.
It's like becoming a myth maker yourself
Yeah.
when you read it.
It's like you're putting the pieces together
Yeah,
of this ancient history.
I like that.
It's so cool.
And that's why it's inspired
So
so
much
many other things.
Yeah.
Like fan art,
fan art,
music.
even other books and movies.
Yeah,
It sparks creativity.
it gives you ideas.
Yeah.
But okay, let's be real.
All right.
It's a lot to take in.
It can be intimidating.
Yeah,
It's dense.
it stinks.
It's complex.
Complex.
There are a lot of names,
a lot of names to remember.
and some of them are hard to pronounce.
Yeah, like I still
Dodge.
trip over some of them.
Yeah.
So what would you say
Well, first,
to someone who's never read this before?
don't be intimidated.
Yeah.
It's not like your typical novel.
Okay.
Don't try to speed read it.
Okay.
Take your time.
Right.
Savor it.
Savor it. Okay.
It's like a collection of myths and legends.
Yeah.
Soak it in.
Okay.
Let the language just wash over you.
Okay.
You don't have to get every
You
detail.
don't have to memorize it.
No.
Okay.
Just focus on,
The big picture.
yeah, the big picture.
Okay.
The characters you love.
Okay.
The parts that give you goosebumps.
Yeah. And if you need to look back at the family tree,
It's okay.
it's okay.
We all do it.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
All right. So
You've gotten this overview.
a lot of resources out there. If
Yeah.
you want to dive deeper,
Yeah, like companion guides.
companion guide,
Hey, maps.
podcasts.
Podcasts.
I think this one.
Yeah. And
Speaking of resource,
yeah, we created something special
we did.
for our listeners.
We put together
some visual guides
Yeah.
that map out all the families.
the key families.
Yeah. And how they're connected.
Oh, that's helpful.
And it's free
Oh.
for all our listeners.
Okay, so check that out.
Let's check it out.
Links in the show notes.
Links in the show notes.
All right, so you've got all this information.
Yeah.
You're ready to go.
You're ready to dive in.
But we want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
So imagine
You're an elf.
you're an elf,
You're living in Valinor.
which is paradise, right?
It's a beautiful place.
You're with your loved ones.
Your family and
It
friends.
is good. You have all of eternity ahead of you.
Okay. Yeah. You're immortal.
But then tragedy strikes.
Okay.
Something precious to you
Yeah.
is stolen,
Okay.
and you have a choice to make.
Okay, what do you do?
Do you stay in paradise,
Stay in paradise.
knowing that something has been taken from you?
Okay.
Or do you risk everything
To get it back?
to fight for justice?
So would you follow Fëanor?
Into exile,
Knowing what could happen.
knowing the hardships
Yeah.
you might face.
Peace or justice? It's a tough choice.
It is.
There are no easy answers in the Silmarillion.
Yeah. And that's what makes it,
So powerful.
yeah,
It forces us to think.
to confront these big questions.
Yeah.
And really figure out
What matters to us?
what we value.
Exactly.
Okay.
So keep that in mind.
As you read.
Let it guide you.
Yeah.
Let it spark your imagination.
Because this book,
It's a journey,
it's a journey.
not a destination.
Yeah.
You can come back to it
Again and again.
again and again.
And find something new.
Every time.
Okay, so we hope
We hope this deep dive
this deep dive has given you a taste
of what's out there,
of Tolkien's world.
of the magic and the wonder
And the wonder.
that's waiting for you.
So go explore it.
Go explore.
And until next time,
Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.